Hello and welcome back to World Regional Geography. In this lecture, I will focus on the history and culture of South Asia, which is the region that we are covering this week. When we talk about South Asia, we're talking about one of the regions of the world that has had the longest human settlements, along with Eastern China, which we will talk about in a few next week. Along with Eastern China and the Fertile Crescent, which we covered last week. The Fertile Crescent, if you recall, encompasses ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Along with the Fertile Crescent and Eastern China, the Indus River civilizations are some of the oldest human settlements. And one thing that relates all of these regions is that they have river systems with plenty of water that have been very important for their urban development as settled agricultural civilizations. Okay, in the Indus River civilizations, some of the oldest that we find are known as the Harappan culture. The Harappan culture established itself in what is now in the Indus River Valley between Pakistan and India. And here we see human settlements from about 3,300 before the Common Era or before Christ, up until 1,300 before Christ. So we have quite a long period of settlement in a sedentary agricultural society that took advantage of regular river systems that allowed the population to develop agriculture and develop highly advanced urban societies. For example, the Harappa culture developed two large cities such as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. For the time period, these cities were very developed because they had a sewage system that allowed them to manage clean water and dirty water. They also developed a type of architecture that allowed them to use shadows and wind, as well as wind corridors to cool the cities during the summer or during the hot months. So Mohenjo-daro and Harappa were pretty advanced for their time. Later on, about the 1750 before Christ or before the Common Era, we see the Aryan invasion. And the Aryan invasion is by a group of people that comes from Central Asia, modern-day Afghanistan. And this is going to create a mixture of the Indo-Aryan civilization. The Indo-Aryan civilization is going to introduce Hinduism in the region along with the caste system. The caste system still operates in India in Hinduism. This is what this system does. It institutionalizes social status and class. There are four castes that people belong to. These are the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. We also have the Dalits, or the untouchables, and technically these people are out of caste. They don't belong within these castes. The goal for a person should be to fulfill their spiritual role, depending on which of these castes they fall in. Be they priests and academics as Brahmins, warriors and kings, so modern-day politicians, and military generals as Kshatriyas. Vaishyas are merchants and landowners, and Shudras are commoners, peasants, and servants. The goal of each of these people is to accumulate enough karma by fulfilling their spiritual role so that they are reincarnated in a higher caste throughout their subsequent lifetimes, okay? Of course, what this created is a system of people that are permanently oppressed, known as the untouchables, because they cannot reincarnate or they can't really move into this system. In South Asia, we also see the development of another important world religion, which is Buddhism. Buddhism emerged in North India and Nepal around 500 before Christ or before the Common Era. And this religion is anchored in the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha. Buddha means the awakened one. Siddhartha Gautama develops a system of teaching system known as the Eightfold Path, which is based on individual enlightenment achieved through achieved through good deeds and meditation, where you're able to eliminate suffering, anxiety, and dissatisfaction. This religion then spread to East Asia and Sri Lanka through trade in the Silk Road, and today it is one of the major religions also in Southeast Asia. In this part of the world, in India and South Asia, however, Buddhism is going to decline by 1100 AD. So for about 500, 600 years, this religion was quite popular, but later on we're going to see the entry of Islam. In terms of the pre-colonial heritage of India, the Gupta Empire is considered the golden age of India. This empire developed intricate sculptures and important temples, but they also pioneered the use of zero in mathematics, and in astronomy they used the concept of pi. Many of these developments in science allowed them to understand the age of the Earth more or less accurately. They knew that the Earth also moved around the sun and that the universe was infinite. Another important component of this was metallurgy as well. As I mentioned before, Islam comes to South Asia through trade in the Silk Road. This religion is brought by people coming from the Islamic world in the Arabian Peninsula, and this is going to lead to the establishment of the Mughal Empire. The religion, actually doesn't make it through this. Yes, Islam makes it through trade, but the Mughal Empire is going to be established through through modern-day Afghanistan, in the Hindu Kush Mountains, coming in from northern India and then moving all the way to the south. This empire is going to operate for a few hundred years, and it's going to develop very important cities like the cities of Lahore in modern-day Pakistan, as well as Delhi and Agra. And we're going to see the rise of very intricate, developed Islamic architecture that is going to bring Persian influences, and it's going to mix along with Indian influences. During this period, Islam is going to become very attractive to people of the lower castes of Hinduism, and there's going to be a lot of converts that don't like their caste or their role under Hinduism, and they're going to convert to Islam. There's also other groups that blend Hinduism and Islam to produce the religion of Sikhism, especially in southern Pakistan and western India. When we think about the Taj Mahal, for example, the Taj Mahal is one of the best examples of Mughal architecture during this period. As you might know, the Taj Mahal was developed as a tomb for the favorite, for one of the favorite wives of an emperor, a Mughal emperor. And today it remains one of the most visited landmarks in India as well. And even though it is not Hindu, it is still a very important palace in the region. The Mughal Empire is going to fall apart because of infighting between family members who can't decide who is going to replace rulers. So there's a lot of infighting, and some of these rulers are trying to conquer the south, and by doing that they lose their conquests in the north. Here we're going to see the entry of the British East India Company. Little by little, the British East India Company is going to begin to control large parts of India. What the British are going to do is they're going to align with local principalities or local princes and support them and become their security guards or their military forces. However, later on, the British East India Company is going to be large enough to have its own army and take over from these princes. So they're going to take advantage of the division, because divide and conquer is a classic strategy of colonialism. And so they're going to employ this strategy to divide the local rulers and conquer the region and establish colonial trading posts where they can export the goods of India, like textiles and raw materials like tea and sugar, out from the subcontinent into other British colonies as well as the United Kingdom. And what they are going to do, they're going to replace the native bureaucracies and administrations, and they are going to implement their own taxation systems that will eventually decimate the textile industry and local agriculture. After 1857, India and South Asia become a formal colony of the United Kingdom in response to the Sepoy Rebellion, where there was a rebellion against the British, and in retaliation to keep control, the British put down the Sepoy Rebellion and take possession of India as a formal colony. This is going to inaugurate the period known as the British Raj, where agriculture is going to be changed from subsistence and agricultural goods for consumption, but because people have to pay taxes to the British, they're going to produce cash crops. This is going to lead to several issues, because when people produce for exports to pay their taxes, they don't produce food. They're going to produce cotton or sugar, things that you export to make money. And whenever there are famines, people are not going to have enough to eat because they didn't produce food necessarily. We're also going to see the development of a railroad and other infrastructures that the British developed to extract resources from the region. And overall, this is going to lead to widespread underdevelopment in Southeast Asia. Up until the period of independence, for example, the region is going to be economically subservient to the United Kingdom and the British Empire. British colonialism is going to be severely criticized during and after before, certainly by locals, but during and after the World War II period, where from 1943 to 44, the British are going to direct all resources of South Asia for the war effort, because the United Kingdom, the British are fighting against Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy during World War II. And so all of the food and medicine is going to be allocated to the war, knowing that this would lead to severe starvation and famines in South Asia. We estimate that around 2.1 million people died, for example, from the Bengal famine. Among other indignities, of course, being controlled by a foreign power, are going to lead to the rise of an independence movement, in this case orchestrated by one of its most famous figures, Mohandas Gandhi. Mohandas Gandhi was a lawyer and also a journalist, and he developed the tactics of nonviolent protest and hunger strikes, among others. He is one of the figures that helped bring about Indian independence in 1947. And so, as you can tell from this part, and also from the section on Africa or the Middle East and Central Asia last week, right? World War II is an important turning point where the French, the British, many of these European powers lose their colonies. They lose these two independence movements, but also because, remember, that the creation of the United Nations after World War II encouraged peoples to fight for their own independence through self-determination. After independence, the unified British India territory is going to be divided along religious lines. While some figures of the independence movement wanted to keep all religious groups together under one large country, this is not going to be possible. There's going to be religious divisions, and so the territory is going to be divided into Muslim and Hindu religions. We're also going to see parts of parts of the British India become East and West Pakistan. Eventually, East Pakistan is going to become independent from West Pakistan, and it's going to become Bangladesh in 1971. So while India will become majority Hindu, West Pakistan, East Pakistan, and the Maldives will become majority Muslim, where Sri Lanka will remain Buddhist, as well as Nepal and Bhutan will remain Buddhist countries. The period of the partition, as our book shows, is also going to bring about a large conflict during this period, especially when Hindus are displaced from Pakistan into India and Muslims are displaced from India into Pakistan. And from this point on, afterwards, we're going to see the development of a conflict between India and Pakistan. They're going to become, unfortunately, enemies for quite a while, and up until this day, they continue to be they continue to struggle over their over northern India, Pakistan, a region known as Kashmir, which is claimed by India, claimed by Pakistan, and part of it is also claimed by China. And so up until today, both of these regions continue to see conflict because of Kashmir. Okay. All right. That's it for the section on history and culture. In the next section, I will focus on the economics and politics of South Asia.